This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
This week in our Wednesday night share, we discussed the great Rishon Rabbeinu Tam, and we referred to Tosfos and Ksubas Kuf Gimel Amud Beis, who cites Reb Chaim Kohen, who says that if he would have been around when Rabbeinu Tam passed away, he would have been metame to Rabbeinu Tam. Amazingly, my good friend Reb Shaya Levi referred me to the comments of the Panim Yafes, the Hafla, in this week's Parsha, who explains this shita of Reb Chaim Kohen, that why in fact would he be metame to Rabbeinu Tam? Yes, the Gemara says, Mishameis Rebbe Batla Kedusha, which perhaps means the Kedusha of Kahuna became batal on that day, and therefore it was applied to Rabbeinu Tam as well. But still, Kohanim are now to be metame. It's a lav in the Torah. So the Hafla in the Panim Yafei cites the Ramban in this week's Parsha, who says that tzaddikim that die with neshika are not metame. And the Hafla says, well, according to this shita of the Ramban, that haniftorim b'neshika yitamu min adin, like Chazal say tzaddikim ein metamin, that's pshat in Reb Chaim Kohen, that he would have been metame to Rabbeinu Tam. Now, implicit in that is that the Hafla is saying Rabbeinu Tam died b'neshika. Now, the Hafla says, don't say it's because the asay of Kfuras Talmid Chacham is doicha the lav of Tumah, because the Hafla pushes off that possibility. But it means the Hafla seems to be learning and applying the rule of the Ramban that anyone who dies b'neshika is not metame. Rabbeinu Tam died b'neshika? The Gemara in Baba Basra on Daf Yud Zayin says 6 people died b'neshika. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Miriam. So how could the Hafla say Rabbeinu Tam died b'neshika? It must be the Hafla is learning, and this is brought in the footnotes on the Hafla HaMafuar, that the Medrash in Shir Hashirim says Shar Kol Tzadik Minayin She Misasa B'neshika Shenemar Yishakeni Mishikas Pihu. And it's not logical to say the Medrash argues on the Bavli. The Bavli is counting a certain darga of Misas Neshika, but the Medrash applies it to all tzaddikim. And therefore, according to the Ramban, B'shas Misa, tzaddikim are not metame. Not only Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, but even a tzaddik like Rabbeinu Tam. Now it's interesting. The Hafla in Ksubas on Kav Gimel Amud Beis, he interprets the reason why perhaps they were able to metame to Rabbi is because Rabbi was a Nasi, and Nasi Shameis Roiv HaTzibur Metamin. That's the Gemara M'sachim Daf Ayin Amud Beis. It's like Tumas Kroivim. And interestingly, the Hafla and Shas has a little bit of a different take about the following episode than the Panim Yafes in this week's Parsha. On Tisha B'Av, we're going to say in Kinnos that when they killed Reb Shimon Gamliel, Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol was metame to Reb Shimon Gamliel, and he picked up his head, the severed head of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, and he put his eyes on his eyes, and he put his mouth on his mouth, and he was metame to Reb Shimon Gamliel. How could it be metame to Reb Shimon Gamliel? He was some piv al piv. So that Panim Yafes in this week's Parsha says, very simple, tzaddikim b'misasam, they die b'neshika, they're not metame. Interestingly, the Hafla in Ksubas says, because Reb Shimon Gamliel was the Nasi, and the Gemara M'sachim says, Roiv HaTzibur could be metame to the Nasi. But this is an interesting area that's relevant to this week's Parsha. I thank my friend Reb Shaya Levi for referring me to this Panim Yafes. And the Panim Yafes applies Misas Neshika to none other than Rabbeinu Tam, Rabbeinu Yaakov, Bar Meir, Zuchusa Yagin Aleinu, Va'al Kol Yisrael.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.